everyone. Welcome back to Thought Crime and Keto and Crime. Today we're delving in to the colleges that are often cited by many of the Quiverfull and fundamentalist movement. We've been talking about families as where they have their kids are educated. There are more than what I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover 3 of the main ones, but there are a lot more. We're going to go over their accreditation, their majors, tuition, and kind of their rules, as opposed to what we would consider normal colleges. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be shorter than normal video, but fun nonetheless. So let's get into it. But first, a shout out to my patrons and my channel members. If you want to join either, the links to Patreon are down below. Also, you can hit join, which is right next to subscribe on my channel. There's some tiers and some rewards there. Also, the majority of you are not yet subscribed, so I'm hoping today will be the day that I earn your subscription. If you would like to, please hit subscribe. Also give it a like, comment, give it a share. That helps my videos more than anything. So thank you so much. Financial is nice because I can use it to grow the channel and make the videos better, but always just helping me catch that YouTube algorithm is the most important thing. And with that said, let me give a shout out to my patrons and my channel members, and then we'll delve into the video. My patrons: Kate Wilhite, Demelza Pasco, Ann Clow, Lauren Kirk, Sarah Carney, Andrea Lee, and Tabora Summers Cooper, as well as my channel member, Samantha Stevens. Now, if you join either Patreon or channel, you get special badges, emojis. Those are coming. They're being designed. On some tiers, you get merch, and on others, you get other perks, but you will also get a twice monthly channel member and Patreon only live stream where we don't do it via chat. You're not just in a chat room with me there. I use my personal Zoom, and we can all dial in and actually talk to each other and see each other. So it's a fun time. So that's going to be another one of those is going to be coming up at the end of August. So thank you so much for everything that you do for me, and I certainly appreciate it. And with that, let's get into the video. Quiverfull colleges. So let's talk about colleges, shall we? The most important thing to remember when you choose a college is to look at tuition. Can you afford it without going into massive student loan debt? Is the major you're choosing, is it relative to what you want to do? And also, can you actually get a job with it? Number 3, the accreditation. Because if the accreditation is janky or otherwise in question, not only can you transfer to any other college, they usually won't take the credits. You also can probably not pursue graduate work because, again, not accredited. And also employers will look at certain colleges as less than others if they're not properly accredited. I actually used to be a curriculum designer for a for-profit school called Virginia College Online. And it was one of the many for-profit colleges that have come under fire lately for not having proper accreditation and just having massive amounts of student loan default. In fact, if you want to see the video I did on for-profit colleges, I'll link it right up here. But, so I know this world very well. Now, I came from the world of secular for-profit colleges, which are a lot different, but they are similar in the accreditation of some of these religious colleges. I went to a religious college, but it wasn't a Quiverfull college. It was a mainstream, private religious college that was fully accredited by the proper channels, and never had any problem with it. But so I know this world pretty well. I know how religious colleges operate. I also understand accreditation. So I think I'm uniquely qualified to comment on this. So first, let's get into what is accreditation and what do you need to look out for. Okay, first, any body that creates, any body of people or organization that accredits colleges has to first be accredited themselves. So it's a web. First, they have to be accredited by the Department of Education, and additionally by the Council for Higher Education Accreditation, CHEA. Both the Department of Education is an actual cabinet department. that CHEA is a link. It's private, but it is linked heavily with the Department of Education. It's based out of Washington, D.C. They accredit the accrediting bodies that accredit schools. And so be sure that any accrediting body that accredits your school is accredited by Department of Education and CHEA, Council for Higher Education Accreditation. And if it's not, then the whole accreditation body is suspect, and therefore the school is suspect. And both of these organizations and the colleges and accreditation boards that they accredit are under the watch of the Government Accountability Office, which will do things on tuition costs, return on investment, which means that does the amount of money you're paying for tuition, actually, do you get a return on investment? Are you making enough money from that major at that particular college? They'll also look at student loan rates, Pell Grant rates, and the amount of people that do or do not pay back their student loans. And if you get bad marks, your accreditation can become under fire, which is what happened to Virginia College. This happened after I left. But basically, the accreditation board that accredited it, ACICS, which stands for the Accrediting Body of Independent Colleges and Schools, Accrediting Council of Independent Schools and Colleges, that was the organization that accredited Virginia College and a lot of others. And so it was properly accredited by Department of Education and CHEA, but then it got in trouble because of its colleges scoring low on these government accountability offices, and from there it kind of spiraled. Virginia College tried to get accreditation elsewhere and couldn't, and then they ended up closing along with a lot of other for-profit colleges in the mid-2000s. So you can definitely check out that video and you'll hear all about that. So that's number one. So you have to make sure the accrediting body that accredits your college is accredited by these two and then overwatched by the Government Accountability Office. Now, let's talk about the two types of accreditation a college can get: national and regional. First, national. Now, I'm going to tell you right out, national has a bad connotation to it, because it's basically considered that if you have a national accrediting body, then you couldn't pass muster for the much more desired regional accreditation. In the regional accreditation, there's only a few of them, and they are in charge of accrediting schools in specific areas of the country. So if you don't get accreditation under one of the regional models, then your only hope is national, and they're like ACICS, which had problems. A lot of national accreditors do. Now, I'm not saying that they're all bad. Just because a college is nationally accredited doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad, but just bear in mind that if you go to a college that is nationally accredited, you probably won't be able to transfer or pursue further education at a regionally accredited college, because there's politics there and they don't like to accept those credits. Lots of times, though, national accredited will accept credits coming from regionally accredited. So it's very one-sided sometimes. A lot of politics. But also, lots of employers, unless a nationally accredited college also is accredited by a professional organization, so a dental school or a dental hygienist school that's accredited nationally by ACICS and then also accredited by the National Dental Association, will carry a lot more weight than one that isn't. So make sure if you do choose a nationally accredited college that you make sure that the program you're going into is accredited by a professional organization. Also check employment rates, because you don't want to spend, because most of the time these schools are much more, they're either private or for profit, and they're very expensive. Very expensive. So, and you don't want to end up in a lot of debt and then not be able to use your degree. So check that out. But under national accreditation, you have several. The one we're going to talk about mainly today is the Transnational Association of Christian Colleges and Schools, or TRACS. It pretty much accredits religious universities that are not regionally accredited. And you can have both national and regional accreditation, which one of the universities we're talking about does. So, yeah, if it's just accredited by that, be careful, because most of the religious colleges that fall under tracts are Bible colleges. They only teach things related to ministry. And so if you do a secular type career there, sometimes you can't get a job. So just be careful. In addition to tracts, you also have ACICS, ACCSC, ACCET, COE, DEAC, the New York Board of Regents, and yeah. So any of those organizations, it's not one of the regional accrediting agencies, beware. Now let's talk about regional accreditation. One final word on national accreditation. If you do go to a nationally accredited school, most of the time you won't be able to pursue anything at a regionally accredited colleges. Also, you have to check with other nationally accredited institutions to see if they will take the credits, because it's kind of a free-for-all there. So you may not only find yourself stuck going to nationally accredited schools, but you may not be able to transfer anywhere or pursue a master's if you have to have a master's to complete. And you may end up having to repeat the undergraduate. So just beware. Now let's talk about regionally accredited institutions. Whereas new nationally accrediting bodies can come online at any time as long as they pass muster by the Department of Education and CHEA, the regional accreditors are pretty much locked in. It's one of the six regional accrediting bodies appointed by CHEA and Department of Education to accredit all colleges and universities in their area. So if you're opening a college in, let's say, and the regional accreditor we're going to be talking about most today is SACS, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and it handles colleges and universities in the Southeast United States. So if you are going to open a college in the Southeast United States, you would first want to apply for SACS accreditation, regional accreditation. Now, all state colleges and universities, community colleges, fully accredited private nonprofit colleges, and some for-profit colleges are accredited by this body, but the accreditation is much harder to get than national accreditation, which is why a lot of these for-profit and private schools go the national accreditation route, because it's easier. But this is the creme de la creme. You want to be accredited by a regional accrediting board. So schools in the Southeast United States, that is Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and even they also handle schools in Mexico, the Caribbean, Central and South America. There are some colleges like the Caribbean medical schools. A lot of them are SACS accredited. So just remember, make sure that you have the proper accreditation. But in addition to SACS, there are 5 other accrediting bodies that make up the regionals. You have the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, which handles New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. You have the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, which handles all the New England states. The Higher Learning Commission and the North Central Association of Colleges and Schools, they handle most of colleges in the Midwest out to the west, ending at California. Then you have the Northwest Commission, which handles Alaska, Idaho, Montana, Washington. And then you have the Accrediting Commission for Western Association of Colleges and Schools, which handles California, Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, Northern Marianas Island. And then you have a separate commission for community and junior colleges, which are not necessarily attached to any of the regional. They're just an extra accrediting commission that if for some reason you don't get a regular accreditation, you get this junior college accreditation, which is the same as the regional. Now, the regionals are a very close-knit group. They handle the majority of the colleges and universities and community colleges in this country, and it's very easy to transfer among them. You can go from a SACS college to a Middle States college with no problem whatsoever. And most of them also have professional association memberships for their majors. So if you go to a regionally accredited college, you're going to have no problem. But as I said, there's a lot of politics. That has something to do with the national accrediting boards kind of being locked out. But also, by and large, national accreditation is just substandard to regional. But you can be accredited on both. And like I said, one school we're going to talk about is. Now, with that in mind, let's get into the actual colleges we're going to talk about. Now, I'm going to start with what I would consider the worst educationally up to the best in this of the three that we're going to talk about. There are others, I'll mention them, but for the most part, we're going to start from what I think is the most lacking in accreditation and, educational worth up to the best. Let's get into it, shall we? The first is Crown College in Powell, Tennessee, just outside Knoxville, Tennessee. You're going to find that a lot of these colleges that we're talking about fall into the South, the good old Bible Belt, because of course. And as a result, if they are originally accredited, they're going to be accredited by SACS, but most of them are going to be nationally accredited by TRACS. So, Crown College was founded in 1991 by Clarence Sexton, who was also the founder of Temple Baptist Church in Powell, Tennessee. Basically, the college and their accompanying private school, known as Temple Baptist Academy, are offshoot and ministries of the church. So you have a church that was founded first, followed by a private elementary and high school, and now a college. And it was founded as an outreach from the actual Baptist church, which is an independent Baptist church. Not a new independent. It's not a Stephen Anderson, but it is an independent Baptist church. And it was founded to be an outreach and ministry and also to educate ministers, missionaries, anyone else that might be interested in pursuing a career with the ministry in mind. It's located in the small town of Powell, Tennessee, which is just outside Knoxville. So these students have a lot of interaction with the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. They are accredited by TRACS, the Transnational Association of Christian Colleges and Schools, and by the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. Now, the Tennessee Higher Education Commission is a Tennessee-only commission, and it usually accredits on top of whether they are nationally or regionally accredited. You can't just be accredited by Tennessee Higher Education Commission alone and be a worthy college. Now, they are nationally accredited because they are a Bible college, pretty much just a Bible college. And they list as their primary mission to prepare people to walk with Jesus and to do revolutionary works for Him. So they mainly set out to train people for the ministry, though they have other majors as well. They also have a trade school, which I found that very interesting. Now, if you are training for the ministry, I can't say that it would be a bad choice to go to Crown College. In fact, some of the Quiverfull families that are put on television, the Plyce, that their kids go here. And it's very close to, like I said, Knoxville, the Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, so it's a beautiful area. They all go here. And if you are pursuing a career in the ministry, this wouldn't necessarily be a bad choice because as Bible colleges go, it's very well respected among clergy people. So it wouldn't necessarily be a bad choice to go here. But let's talk about if you're being sent here for what would be considered a secular education. In addition to degrees in theology, ministry, Christian education, they also have a school of business, which I looked this up. It's a bachelor's in biblical studies and entrepreneurship and small business. Now, I got news for you. To be an entrepreneur, you don't need to go to college at all. You just need to have an idea and know how to execute it. So I think their business degree is pretty worthless as far as that goes. And that goes for any other entrepreneurship degree. That's a waste of money. If you want to be an entrepreneur, just go be an entrepreneur. You don't need college. They also have an education degree, but it's all bachelor's of Bible studies and Christian education. So you're not going to be able to sit for any state public school type of job because you will have to go back to a regionally accredited university to get those credits. So you're not going to be able to get a normal teacher certificate here. But what you can do with this is probably what their mission is, as it is an outreach of Temple Baptist Church, is to train teachers for their own private school, also to train homeschool moms who are also looking for their MRS degree to go home and teach their own children. All of this is with a mission to bring people into their religion. So you have people being trained to homeschool, go to Christian private schools, as well as missionary work. But you also have things like they have a special teaching certificate that they offer. It's their own certificate to teach English as a second language and to use that as a way to minister to people while you're teaching them English. So they send people out to other countries to teach English as a second language. Well, I got news for you. You don't even have to have a degree to teach English as a second language. There's lots of online websites, VIP Kids. There's some others as well, where you don't even have to have a degree to teach English as a second language and probably make more than you're going to make here. But let's keep this straight. Very few people are going here for a secular education because it's not a cheap school. They're going here because they come from a fundamentalist family that doesn't want them to be, in a secular environment for college, because that's when people go wild. That's when you experiment and do things you shouldn't do. So they don't want their children doing that. So they send them here where there are a lot of rules. Women wear dresses. Men wear suits. There's weekly church, chapels, Bible study. There's separate elevators for men and women. They've gotten into trouble before about sexual harassment. There's a lot of victim blaming. They often say that if a girl's in the wrong place at the wrong time, that's the way I take it. It may not be that way, but that's the way I take it. So let's get this straight. This is not necessarily an educational institution. It's a way to keep Quiverfull children and fundamentalist children isolated while they're trained to be Quiverfull people when they grow up. There's also a trade school. They teach cosmetology, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, repair and installation, auto mechanic, and welding. And this is a traditional AAS degree, and they are professionally accredited by, professional standards boards for these particular trades. So if you're wanting to learn a trade, this may not be a bad fit for you, because I'm always for somebody learning a trade because you can make a lot of money. So more power to you. But the majority of their besides the trades, the majority of their non-biblical or ministry-based degrees are stuff you don't even really need a degree for. So as far as educational prowess, I say it's going to score very low. The main campus is in a former Levi Strauss blue jeans manufacturing plant in Powell. They compete in the USCAA, which is the United States Collegiate Athletic Association. It's a Division II, so they compete in several sports with other Christian and private colleges. It is a private nonprofit because it's attached to a church. They also have several summer camps that their students are guidance counselors at, and very much Christian-based camps. There's even one in Birmingham, England. So everything they do here is to bring people into their fold. They have a regular ministry that goes to UT Knoxville and proselytizes on campus. They go door to door like Mormons. I mean, it's very much to bring people into this. There's a lot of Quiverfull families here, so it's very much to bring you into this fundamentalist Quiverfull type of environment and train you to stay in it. So they do proudly say that in 2015, 94% of their graduates had no college debt. And they said this is in steep contrast to 70% of regular college graduates. And that's great, but there hasn't been an update since 2015 on that. So I'm wondering what their debt to income ratio looks like now. They have several tuition packages from whether you live on campus or not. But let's just say you're going to be spending anywhere from $400 to $800 a month to go to this school. So it's steep. I can understand why their, college debt is low, because probably with Pell Grants and, parental assistance, probably most people do get through school without debt. So, yeah. But if you're okay to spend $400 a month for your education and live at home, or $800 and live on campus, you're good. They didn't mention an online component, so I'm pretty sure, like some of the other Bible colleges, kids were forced back into class during this pandemic before they should have been. So, yeah, that's Crown College. Next is Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. And it's just like Crown, very conservative. A lot of Quiverfull people attend, or a lot of fundamentalist people attend. They are dually accredited, but they're both national accreditation boards, so I don't understand why. But they're accredited by both the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools commissions on colleges, that is a acronym that I don't even begin to know how to pronounce, and tracks. They compete in Division II sports with other private schools. They are basically what is known as a fundamentalist modernist type of school. They're based on Christian evangelist Bob Jones Sr. He became increasingly concerned about the secular nature of higher education in the 1920s, and with help from his good friend, the philosopher and diplomat William Jennings Bryan, who is a fundamentalist politician, former Secretary of State from Nebraska, who also prosecuted during the famous Scopes evolution trials in Tennessee. So yes, very much young Earth creationists. They developed a Bible conference that would educate young people to go into ministry and kind of keep them out of the evils of secular education. And then even after Jennings Bryan died in 1925, they continued those conferences, which eventually resulted in the opening of the first Bob Jones College in Panama City, Florida, with 88 students. According to this, Bob Jones took absolutely no salary from it. He devoted his entire life to building it up. With the Great Depression and bankruptcy, he moved it to Cleveland, Tennessee, which is also in East Tennessee, in 1933. And from there, where it became actually the largest liberal arts college in Tennessee. And eventually they realized they could no longer expand unless they had more land. And it was here that Bob Jones Sr. passed it to his son, Bob Jones Jr., who officially became the second president of the college in 1947. And in 1948, they moved it to its current campus in Greenville, South Carolina, where it became Bob Jones University. It's doubled in size and actually has things like its own radio station, a film school, which is really odd, its own art gallery, which leads me to believe what kind of art you would actually have there, and had one of the largest collections of religious art in the Western Hemisphere. Point of interest, Billy Graham, the famous American evangelist, went there. He only attended for one semester, but he was awarded an honorary degree in 1948 because, of course, why wouldn't they want to list him as an alum? There's been several controversies revolving around Bob Jones, mostly about theological liberals wanting to support campaigns and clubs for their own beliefs on campus. Basically, the college threw them out or told them to shut their mouths. There would be no liberalism here. Basically, a lot of the strife between conservatives and liberals caused a brief 10% drop in enrollment in the 50s and 60s. But by 1970, they had rebounded and were back up to their normal thing. But Bob Jones III, Bob Jones Jr., became president at age 32 in 1971. And Bob Jones Jr. was elevated to the title of Chancellor. They decided to, they controlled this school. I mean, this isn't like a college where they hire people. It pretty much stayed in the Jones family. And up to their grandson, Stephen Jones, being the fourth president in 2014, or in 2005, rather. And then in 2014, Stephen Jones had to resign, and the first non-Jones president was installed in 2014. So there you go. In 2011, it became a member of TRACS. In addition to the other national accreditation it had also undergone some problems with federal financial aid and had lost it briefly due to the controversy of the religious teachings taught on campus, as well as their educational system just being deemed substandard. So they briefly lost the ability to have federal financial aid. They did officially regain that in 2017, and in June of 2017, they were officially accredited by SACS. SACS, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. So this would be our dual accredited institution. So it is definitely much better off than it was before, having got regional accreditation and dually nationally accredited. So this thing has 3 accreditations. They have a wide variety of majors, everything from cybersecurity and computer science to liberal arts to business, education, anything that you could normally find at a regular college you will find here, but it's all with a Christian slant. It is $14,000 a semester as of 2020-2021 for commuter students. For on-school students, it boasts $28,000 a semester. Yeah, very expensive. And I don't think you get a quality of education here that you would. It also has a lot of rules, the same things, mandatory chapel attendance, Bible study, rules about interactions between men and women, absolutely no homosexual behavior is allowed. You can't really, be alone with somebody of the opposite sex. So very much those quiverfull tendencies are in play here. Although you do have women coming here, unlike Crown, you do have women coming here to pursue an actual career and not just get married and become a quiverfull mom. And finally, the big boy, the one that is probably the most respected among colleges, even though it is a religious college where a lot of fundamentalist and very conservative Christians send their children, and that is Liberty University near Virginia Beach, Virginia. It was founded in 1971 by good old Jerry Falwell of the Old Time Gospel Hour, and the one that took, the PTO club away from Jim and Tammy Baker, the one that had the controversy with the owner of Hustler magazine, Larry Flint, that Jerry Falwell. The one who's Jerry Falwell Jr. is still very controversial today. Him and Elmer L. Towns founded it as Lynchburg Baptist College in Lynchburg, Virginia, near Virginia Beach. And it became Liberty Baptist College in 1977 and became Liberty University in 1985. He filed for tax-exempt nonprofit status in 1987, and it was granted. Jerry Falwell Jr. is now the university's president, and it is a bastion of conservative and Christian thought. Incidentally, Jerry Falwell Jr. was released this month, August 7th, 2020, on indefinite leave after posting inappropriate photos of a young woman on social media. So there you go. Controversy. It has been part of the Southern Baptist Convention, so it is a Southern Baptist school, much like my school, Judson. And it was mainly in the beginning kept afloat by conservative donors from the Christian right. Jerry Falwell founded what is known as the Moral Majority and the Religious Right, which is a huge voting bloc of the Republican Party, and it became a public political action committee. So they lobby in Washington, and it is from their members that it was kept afloat with donors. It was finally accredited by SACS in the 80s, but almost lost its accreditation in the 90s due to the heavy debt load of the students and their lack of return on investment. Again, it went through, like a lot of private colleges, it went through the Government Accountability Office audit and didn't pass muster. As of today, 2017, its endowment stands at $1 billion, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. 1985. They began distance learning by mailing VHS tapes to students, and it is now a widespread online component as well, where you can receive most of the university's undergraduate degrees online. Whereas women are allowed to wear pants and such on campus, it is highly desired that you be straight, that you conduct yourself modestly and dress modestly. There is still mandatory chapel attendance, and They were the first university to send students back to school during the pandemic. They offer a wide variety of undergraduate and graduate majors. They're the only ones of any of these schools that we could cover, and I'm talking about the two we've covered, plus like Quiverfull Christian College. Any of the other Bible colleges that are out there, that these people actually have graduate schools, and pretty high-level graduate schools. They also have a medical school which practices osteopathic medicine, so they graduate DOs. It is fully accredited by the osteopathic medical boards, and graduates doctors. They have a school of government that grants masters and PhDs in government. They have a law school. They have graduate programs in most of the undergraduate arts and sciences, and they have a wide variety of majors. So it is, by all accounts, a major university. So outside of their goal to proselytize and graduate evangelicals into the professional world, outside of the rules of men and women keeping separate and things like that are common in these Bible schools, this one's actually pretty okay education, I have to say that. But you will get a biblical slant on it. They still are young earth creationists, so they're going to teach creation along with evolution. They're going to teach kind of alternative science in a lot of ways, but they do have to teach regular science because they have a medical school, so there's that. Their undergraduate tuition is $23,000 a year. Graduate programs for masters are $545 per credit hour, so you pay by the amount of classes that you take, and their other majors have similar, other master's degrees have similar. Like the School of Divinity, it's 410 a credit hour, so you pay by the credit hour here, so you can kind of keep your costs in check and pay in cash maybe if you know exactly what you need to take. Now that's for the regular master's and PhD programs. They do also publish the costs for their nursing school, medical school, and law school, which a lot don't, and I applaud them for that. The School of Nursing, which they do have a doctorate in nursing and PhD in nursing, is $635 per credit hour. The University Law School is $35,000 an academic year, and the medical school is $47,000 a year. So there you go. That's pretty common for, you could get that education a lot cheaper at a public university, but if you are an evangelical Christian that wants to go to a religious school, this is not a bad choice. It is very well respected even in academic circles. So I would say out of the three we discussed, Liberty is probably the best. After that would be Bob Jones, and at the very bottom, along with Pensacola Christian College and other Bible colleges, would be Crown. So there you go. If you're a Quiverfull family or just a fundamentalist Christian that wants to have your children go to college in that environment, these are good choices for you. For somebody like me, these are not good choices. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. This will conclude our expose on the Quiverfull movement. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will be moving on to more subjects for you. Coming up will be the 2012 Mayan calendar, That Time the World Ended video, followed by my review of the Mary Trump book, followed by 2 white-collar crime cases. So I hope you're looking forward to those. I'll be back really soon. Until next time, keto and cry. Keto con.